Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle podcast show. I'm your host, Jonathan, and I am glad you're here. On this show, I talk with industry-leading experts about connecting with others, impacting your niche, and striving to live the best life possible. It's all about sparking meaningful conversations around business ownership and entrepreneurship. The Heart Healthy Hustle Show is about finding connection with proactive peers and navigating a healthy work life with full autonomy. So whether you're driving to or from work right now, exercising, eating, or just relaxing, come hang out and get ready to enjoy another inspiring episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle Show.
All right, welcome back to the Heart Healthy Hustle Show. I'm your host, Jonathan. Today we are here with Garrett Gunderson, founder of an Inc. 500 financial firm, New York Times bestselling author of Killing Sacred Cows, and the CEO of Wealth Factory. Garrett, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be with you, Jonathan.
Located in Utah, you said?
Yeah, Salt Lake City right now. I have dual citizenship in the U.S. and Italy. We spend a little amount of time in Italy and a lot of time I'm out of the United States because we have so much family here. And I ended up in Utah because my family, I come from a line of coal miners, from great-grandfather, grandfathers, and even my dad. So I fortunately have never stepped foot in a coal mine.
Sounds like there's work ethic in your veins, without a doubt.
I definitely have that. I definitely inherited. That's the good part, you know?
That's awesome. So usually we start out the show with some sort of favorite success quote, anything like that you'd like to share?
I love, this has been a big one for me, is wealth isn't the man that has it, but the man that lives it, by Benjamin Franklin, because I spent my 20s only hustling, never enjoying, and I like to kind of have a combination of the two now, you know?
Absolutely. That's fantastic. And I'm 26 years old, so I love hearing that. A lot of us out here who are in our late 20s into the 30s, still not taking the time to rest and enjoy, that can definitely go a long way, just putting that quote into practice. Let's go ahead into your story a little bit. I'm really interested to hear about how you started Wealth Factory and how your journey from, being an author, starting a company, and working into starting up Wealth Factory and all this. I'd just love to hear your story. Just go ahead back in time. Let us know where you were when you were 25, if you can remember that specific time in your life.
Oh yeah, when I was 25, I had created a firm that I was now a few years in called Ingenuity with a couple other partners. They were all in their early 30s, and I was in my early 20s. So they had 10 years on me basically, and we were like intensely studying finance, questioning everything. And we're hosting these study groups where we'd get all these guys that were 20, 30 years older than us coming to attend. Like, I remember one we hosted with over 100 people at it, where we just taught for a half a day the financial concepts we learned and the things that we were being taught that weren't actually accurate. And so we were big into dispelling myths and helping, especially business owners to see a different way that gave them permission to succeed rather than the guilt to kind of do the things that everyone else was doing, but unfortunately had been letting everyone down and failing and didn't necessarily resonate at the core with that business owner. So I was just in this phase of, newly married and just working 7 days a week and hustling to get my business going and to make my mark. And I just thought I was also a bit of a miser back then, just saving everything that I earned and maybe investing back into my business, but definitely not investing into the home that I wanted to live in or the life that I wanted to kind of lead with my wife. So that was a pretty pivotal time in my life to really figure out who I am, what I was going to do, and how I was going to build everything. And I was really in this mindset of building a comprehensive financial service firm with attorneys, accountants, investment advisors, cash flow specialists, risk management people, all working from the same sheet of music, so to speak, in the world of finance. And it was brutal to find them. And, some people considered me a fanatic and other people considered me arrogant because I was just diving in so deep into this world.
I feel like that's the price you may have to pay at times to achieve mastery at any given field.
Everyone else is being taught to invest in stocks and bonds, but I think invest in ideas and people, and especially figuring out where you can create the best ideas, how you can get exposed to the best ideas, and how you can develop your expertise. Back to Benjamin Franklin, he said, an investment in yourself always pays the greatest dividends. And so I truly have always believed and embraced that. So Benjamin Franklin loved today so far.
That's fantastic. Your book, Killing Sacred Cows, you do have a little glimpse of Ben's face in the cover of that book. Is there I guess that's a specific, any link up there with your quote?
Yeah, it was going to be either like a gold coin or $100 bill. So it's like peeling back the sacred cow so that you can like keep a lot more of your money, and it's not all about budgeting and scrimping and saving and what everyone's been trained and taught to do, but instead it's really a game of production, and it's not a game of taking risk with your money, but being a lot more intelligent with your money.
Yeah, I love that. There's a guy, I think it's Warren Buffett, who says be a contrarian. But in life as well, just being a contrarian, I found, has been very helpful so far for me, in the sense that instead of always investing in things that, are supposed to be the right thing, maybe I should be less risk averse and try something else, because I know where the other road is going to go. If everything goes as it's supposed to, I'll be 45, 55, and I won't even have reached a goal financially that I was hoping to. So I love the outlook of, see it as like, achieve more now and keep achieving, as opposed to, oh, this is safer, let's do this.
Like, there's a quote, and this will be paraphrased, but it's like, hey, ships are safe in the harbor, but ships weren't meant to stay in the harbor. They were built for the water, for getting out in the open seas. So that's, I think that we can reduce our risk simply through spending time with the right people, investing in our education, course correcting along the way rather than, waiting too long. But I think if you invest in yourself and your business, you can learn lessons as you'll inevitably make mistakes. And it's key to fail efficiently and fail forward. And when you fail efficiently and forward, make sure you have enough liquidity. Make sure that you're not overly extending yourself to the point where you're in a bad situation and you have limited liquidity. Build up some savings and then keep investing in the right people for your business, the right processes to make it more sustainable, and the right automation that creates leverage and scale. And then as you progress, continue to let go of things that are lower or lesser that you can delegate and hire other people to do, and continue to do the things that are more aligned with your expertise. And the people that make the most are the ones that become thought leaders, that really are game changers, that make the biggest impact. They claim their authority. They leverage the hot topics in the marketplace in order to get a message out to the masses. And then they delegate to the right people and hire A-teamers. And the right people, and the right way to delegate to the right people is to truly empower those people and delegate a role to them instead of just a task, so that you can get freed up to do the things that only you can do in the world. And business is a progression of getting there. If you just take on more, think you're just going to work harder, you'll eventually hit this ceiling where you get exhausted and you get something called diminishing marginal productivity. You spend more time, but you get less done because you're worn out, because you lose energy, because everything's going through you. You become the bottleneck. And at the same time, you're owned by your business instead of owning a business. And it's difficult to scale. We've heard, whether it's Robert Kiyosaki or Michael Gerber, give brilliant advice on work on the business, not in the business, And that's cool to hear, but to really discover how to do that takes a different mindset, a different skill set. Easiest way I figured out how to get there is you let go of one thing and you embrace another. So rather than me being involved in sales within my organization, I let go of that, hired the right people, and then I can embrace writing a book. Letting go of operations so I can embrace speaking and doing podcasts. Letting go of doing one-on-one coaching so I can create content and videos. So you let go of one thing and then you embrace another. And so what are things that you can let go of and give them to other people, and then at the same time embrace the things that only you can do that are more scalable, more leverageable. And it really takes having amazing people around you, because if you don't, because you're hiring cheaply, you're hiring too quickly, then it becomes a bigger problem that lands on your plate, and you're constantly cleaning up messes and putting out fires rather than creating fire and passion for your life.
Yeah, I love that last part especially. Chris Lytle, the author of The Accidental Salesperson, was a guest on the show. I think he said his favorite quote was something to the effect of, you want to shovel the mess while it's still small piles. So hypothetically, Garrett, let's say someone's listening, they're built a team, but they're kind of rushing a little bit, building that team, and they may be a little uneasy with some of the hires that they've just recently done because they're expanding relatively quickly. What would you say to them if this was their issue? They really want to expand rapidly, but they don't see how to do it without making some compromises on the hiring side in terms of how fast they're hiring, so they can't guarantee that maybe they don't have a great background on the individuals they're hiring. what kind of tips and advice would you give them? They don't have an issue with letting go of responsibility and delegating, but maybe their issue is more so that they are ready to really grow, but they're kind of uneasy about what the next thing to let go is and how to do that without making a big mistake.
Well, you better get really good at your hiring processes, and you got to start going to your key relationships and asking, who do you know that's great at X? You know, you don't say that you're hiring. You just look to recruit the very best people and sell your vision. So to hire well, you better have a badass vision that people are going to be compelled by and inspired by. We want to liberate 1 million entrepreneurs to create economic independence in their life. We want to make sure that they live a life that they love and create a legacy that lasts. People are inspired by that. They want to work for that. So if you hire B-teamers or C-teamers or you compromise, you won't be able to bring A-teamers on because they don't want to spend time with those individuals. The hardest thing in business sometimes is firing people too. And when you fire someone, it sends a message to anyone else in your organization and even to yourself that what you're going to tolerate and not tolerate. And you don't want to create low standards, or you don't want to occupy space in your mind when you go home and you're not doing business and thinking about these people and trying to motivate them and micromanage them. Those are not the right people for your team. So you better invest in learning how to hire, whether it is reading top grading, whether it is building out your own hiring system, whether it's finding a mentor that's good at it and having them teach it to you, like whatever it is, you've got to get good at that, because if you don't, business will always be difficult. Your life will be less than ideal. You'll make a lot less money and have a lot more chaos. And I think it's really difficult to fire people, but it's even more difficult to keep the wrong people on board. And you're better off not having an employee that is supporting you but doing a mediocre job than just doing it yourself and growing a little bit slower. So get rid of people that are the wrong people so that you've created the space to bring the right people on, and that's the key. And I think that it's crazy to think you have to compromise on this. You don't. You just have to become amazing at sales when it comes to selling people to work for you. We all know we need to be amazing at sales when it comes to selling people on what you offer as a company, but you better have that same zeal, if not more, to sell people on coming on board. And your amazing people you're going to hire, they're already employed. They're not sitting around waiting for a job.
Yeah.
So you've got to convince them. And Steve Jobs said he wanted people that fell in love with the company. That's a pretty important thing. There's so many books, there's so many conversations, there's so many lectures today about culture. Well, how you hire is going to have a lot to do with your culture. Like if you tolerate gossip where people are talking bad about you or someone else, that is going to demolish your organization, and it starts to become the main part of the conversation within the organization. We have a no gossip policy if we don't tolerate it. Committed complaints, yeah, come to me, complain about something that's going on, and then work on fixing it or going directly to the person afterwards. But gossip is talking to another party that has no solution for it. So the bottom line is, this hiring thing, you better figure it out or life is going to suck.
So going into sales there, I know you've said you've delegated this, but I'm sure you use on purpose or subconsciously in your day-to-day life in your business. You probably implement some sales, but what would your number one or two or three, whatever, sales tip be for just somebody who's in business for themselves? Or maybe they're on a team of a business, a younger business, and they're really amped up and they need to work on their sales skills. They've read some of the books, but they really just are maybe have a little trouble connecting with prospective employees or clientele.
So I think that the key is just clarity around who you are, what you do, and why you do it is the most powerful sales thing. It's not a technique. And just being completely honest about where things might break down, where you're not amazing, is another thing that's critical, because otherwise, if it all sounds so good, people know that things aren't perfect. So I like to admit when, hey, we're having capacity issues right now, so we're not always good about getting back as quickly as I'd hope. So, I let people know that up front, because whatever expectation you give up front is kind of how they operate. And then by knowing, why we do what we do, knowing about the roots of my family and why they left Italy in 1913 and what their life would have been like if they would have had a firm like what I've created here would have meant to them, I feel so connected to that. And so I think that it exudes a level of confidence and certainty that's attractive to others. Using the old school sales techniques, like I bought a program that I loved back in 1996 or 1998 by Brian Tracy that I tried to listen to a few years back, and I was like, man, this just isn't, it's not as relevant today. He's created a lot of new great stuff since then, but it was too like you would just smell it coming. Like when you're using a sales tactic of, okay, we're going to do the takeaway, or we're going to do the, like, people feel that. They sense that it's not authentic. People want something real. People want true communication. So A, you listen, and B, you own who you are and what you do and who you work with and who you don't. If you're trying to help everyone or trying to offer something to everyone, you've just lost so much power. Be okay saying, no, this isn't a good fit. And sometimes your power comes in direct proportion to the times you say no.
Absolutely. I've worked in door-to-door sales for about 2 years straight. And when I really embraced what you just said, I tell you what, the results were much better. I'd stop wasting so much time with people. I stopped wasting other people's time. I worked for a power company as a contractor. We actually weren't selling anything except for an idea. So I really had to bring the energy, really had to be okay with rejection of my presentation, and of course the building of character and the barriers that you break through in some job like that is pretty immense. So I'm really interested, Garrett, in how you transitioned from being, your family. I think you mentioned you came from a family of immigrants from Italy. Is that correct?
Yep. 1913, my great-grandfather left Italy because he had a fishing business that wasn't making it and wanted to provide for his family because his wife was pregnant, and came over to the United States, was a goat herder for a period of time, and then eventually became a coal miner. And it took him 7 years to save up enough money to stop living in a tent, have a house, and get the family over here safely. So, I mean, that's a pretty intense story when you think about it,
Absolutely. That's incredibly intense. It's amazing the contrast of today's man with that. I couldn't even fathom living like that, and yet he did that and accomplished that. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I actually grew up in the second most Italian populated town in America, in South Jersey. So I say I'm Italian by blood, even though I'm not, just because of the food.
What I understand is, like, is Jersey, like, everybody from Jersey from, like, Sicily? Because I've never been to Sicily, but it's like, definitely doesn't feel like people from Tuscany. Like when I lived there for 2 months last year. Right, exactly. It's like, it's such a different culture. I don't know,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny because when I moved away from home, I started meeting Italians, and they were tall and fair-skinned, and I was like, I'm used to seeing, 5'5" and very tan. And that's Italian for me growing up, but that's not the reality for the entire country. But anyway, the reason I asked that, I was going to ask, coming from your background, I assume you were probably always very driven. Would you go into how you transitioned from perhaps struggling to find your purpose to now a strong and structured man of vision?
I mean, I really did a lot of self-development, which created self-awareness, especially in my 20s. I hired a guy, Steve D'Annunzio, to coach me one-on-one to get more clear about purpose. I went to Landmark Education. I was a strategic coach. I was constantly, working on it, thinking about it, doing what I could. It took some time. And then, even this last year, I hired this guy, Chris Smith, with the Campfire Effect, and we got even deeper. I don't feel like you get this arrival point. I think you just continue to get more clarity, and it's just like exercise. You continue to do it. You don't just do it once and it lasts forever. You continue to refine, you continue to deepen, and, as a speaker, I'm going to speaking training at least twice a year. I've been doing stand-up comedy to refine that and to even improve my speaking. So I've done 11 stand-up gigs now and a couple open mics and open for comedians. And so I just think that life is this journey where you want to continue to stretch yourself, challenge yourself, and the more you get deeper and deeper and clearer, the more you can serve others because people look for that leadership.
Are you a funny guy naturally?
Yeah, I feel like I am, especially when I'm around all my friends. I tell a lot of stories and everything, but it's obviously different to get up and be a stand-up comedian. So I felt like I had one leg of it, which was I've been a speaker, I have stage presence. The second leg is I could tell stories that would be really funny, and I could keep those going over a dinner or hanging out at a party. But the third thing is how do you tell that in a much more succinct fashion, learning about pausing and learning about some segments of like how to tell the joke and make it even funnier and deeper and embellish a bit. So, it's something. I hired a guy, comedian Marcus, who was on Last Comic Standing, and he's been awesome. And so I've been doing a lot of stand-up. I did an open mic last week that was probably my least funny thing that I've done, but I still got a decent reaction from it. No applause breaks, and applause breaks are a pretty good indicator, things are going really well. But once again, I'll go next week and do another one and refine it even more.
I love that. Yeah, and I like what you said about consistent personal development and increasing self-awareness. So you're not just giving up. There's no arrival. That's encouraging to hear as well, being younger. That's what I find is being motivated and actually going after that is something that doesn't stop ever. There's no overnight success, so very powerful fact. So why are you doing what you do besides the money? I know you have a passion for serving people. And what is your main motivations outside of the money? What are you getting out of your work outside of the paycheck?
I feel like I'm an artist to a certain degree, and when I get to write a book or create a concept or I just got a gift from a client yesterday where they sent me these couple nice glasses and some sparkling cider for my kids because they just met my kids at a legacy event. And then a lot of what I'm creating, I get to benefit and integrate into my own life, and I get to see the actual fruits of that labor, not only monetarily, but from the people that I'm meeting, and like a lot of them become really close friends, and we've developed these really meaningful relationships, and so it just adds so much depth to my life that I understand finance, and I know how to dissect it and ask questions, and I remember it for long periods of time. I don't have that ability in the world of technology, for example. And so to be able to write and to speak and just see the difference that it makes, because money becomes like one of the main excuses for divorce, one of the big excuses for people just giving up on life, one of the big excuses for people that don't get to spend time with their family or do things that matter, or that if they had this, they could solve that problem. So it's like, if I can help people master money rather than be mastered by it, if I can help people simplify it, add some fun to it, and combine hobbies with my profession, I add comedy into my speaking now. Even into some of my writing now, I feel like I've gotten a lot funnier, where before my writing was very dry. When I wrote Killing Sacred Cows, my first book, the first time, it was just intense. And when I look at when I was speaking back in 2005, I watched some videos, I was just super intense. Now I'm looking at it going like, man, I'm having a good time. I'm interacting with people. I'm feeling connected to them. I'm considering what kind of difference can be made. So I look at it like my art. It's really, it's what I like to do with my time. I enjoy watching some TV series. I enjoy going to the movies. I love to travel. I enjoy those kind of things. But those by themselves start to feel empty. They start to have me question my value as a human being, or I get a level of boredom. So this adds entertainment to me, and it's really, really cool that I can get paid for it too. I mean, that just allows as a great scoring system and benchmark of how valuable it is and how effective it is or not. And it also provides a lifestyle by being able to monetize and make money from that. People that think that, making money is bad or wrong, or having too much money is bad or wrong, they just don't understand what money is. Sure, you can acquire it through deception and coercion, and there are those a-holes out there that do that, but you can also, the majority of people do it through value creation, and value creation comes from serving others and solving problems for people. And so if I have unique gifts towards that I could bring some fun and simplicity to a drab and dry topic, and at the same time inspire people to move forward and live a life that they love and build a legacy that lasts and really get liberated where they become economically independent, worth living for. That gets me up and helps me get through the minutia when some of these things are difficult, because we talked about hiring and firing. Those are difficult things to do, right? And writing a book is fun. Editing a book sucks. Promoting a book sometimes is fun, sometimes is even worse than editing a book. So there's pros and cons to it all. But with the big vision that's compelling, the pros far outweigh any of the cons. And if the only pro is making money, you're not going to sustain with it, because you'll just run out of energy. So I like when it has money and purpose combined, and a good expression of who I am, and it can be an extraordinary amount of fun. Like sometimes people apologize, like, sorry to talk finance with you right now. I'm like, I like it. Let's talk about it. I'm totally good with it. And sometimes I apologize to my wife when I go to dinner with my buddy Andrew and his wife Candace, because Andrew is my attorney, and we just geek out for a little bit, but she gets along with Candace, and so they get it. Like, we're addicted to talking about that kind of stuff, and the possibilities and ideas and structures and how things work and what we could create together and what impact that could make and the different avenues and venues for it. So I think you can kind of sense that in what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really admire your passion around that vision as well. If you had a client, for the listeners here, what's a tip that you would give a client who's coming to you and they're seeking help or advice on how to break out of lifestyle upgrade cycles? So they're smart with their money, except for the fact that they have fallen into the lock-in trap and they're into a lifestyle upgrade cycle where they're increasing their income, but their lifestyle is upgrading simultaneously, so they're not really doing any better financially than they were when they were broke.
Yeah, this is Parkinson's law. When your income increases, your expenses will rise to meet or exceed that if you don't have an infrastructure in place. And so what my recommendation is simple yet profound. Set up a separate account, call it a wealth capture account. It can be a checking, savings, or money market account. And every time you earn income or pay yourself, take a percentage off the top and put it in that account. My recommendation is 15% to you personally, and then set up a separate account called the Living Wealthy account, and every time you hit 15%, add an extra 3% to the Living Wealthy account, and just spend that however you want, guilt-free spending. But the 15% is used to build your savings, your liquidity, and eventually when you have 6 months of it stacked up, then you can deliberately allocate it towards investments that make sense for something outside of your business. So that's the methodology right there. Doesn't require massive budgeting. It doesn't mean that you don't get to enjoy life along the way. And I'm really good at finding that money for people. Most people are overpaying taxes or overpaying on interest or overpaying on insurance or overpaying on non-performing investment fees. And that can help them get close to that 18% right there. And then, hey, as long as they don't go out of bounds and spend more money than they make with the remaining, then great. Keep having lifestyle upgrades, but realize a luxury once enjoyed becomes a necessity. So you got to be a little bit careful about how fast those upgrades happen and what you'd be willing to kind of scale back on or give up if you have some cash flow crunches. And every business has cash flow crunches at times. So that's why I think it's really essential that you make sure to, have some reserve so that you're not chasing bad profits or losing sleep or overly stressed if there is one of those cash flow crunches, So yeah, set up that separate account.
Great. That's a fantastic tip that can be implemented immediately by the listeners there. So, Garrett, I want to go into the Heart Healthy Hustle round. I'm going to ask you a series of questions for heart health and hustle. So are you ready for the Heart Healthy Hustle round?
Let's do it.
So category 1 is heart. So what's your favorite activity for caring for and strengthening your internal character?
Morning ritual. Morning ritual of writing in my 5-minute journal, doing some meditation, and some exercise before I start the day.
Awesome. So our next question kind of rolls over from the last one, but how do you maintain your physical health? Do you have any specific doohickeys that you like to use or any hacks, so to speak, biohacks, anything like that you really enjoy?
I have if you're familiar with like a Proform vibration plate, which vibrates 4 different ways, so you can work on flexibility instead of so it uses acceleration instead of gravity. I did that this morning. I've got a gym in my office, one in my house, and one in my garage. And so I like kind of CrossFit style workouts for the most part. You want to get big gains, you do legs. Extra 20% boost to testosterone when you're doing legs. And no matter how hard you work out, if you don't eat well, it doesn't matter. So like I haven't been eating well the last couple of months, so I've just been really working to get back on track because you just can't outpace it in the gym, especially when you get in your 30s. And especially like I'm coming close to 40, so you might be able to get away with that stuff in your 20s, but it starts to creep up on you.
All right, for hustle, what's your main motivation for hustling to the max of your potential? What gets you up in the morning?
Live a life I love. Do things that matter. Be an example to my kids. Have an extraordinary marriage. Like just live an epic life. There's just so much possibility if you're willing to do that. And otherwise, it's a hard-ass life, If you're just not doing these things, it's people live easy hard sometimes. Sleep in, don't work out, don't do the things they know they need to do that day, procrastinate it, and then it just creeps up and it becomes extraordinarily difficult. I like to do the things that are hard because it makes life easier, So after a good workout, the rest of the day feels better. After having productive meetings or speak on stage or get nervous and go up on a comedy stage, life just gets better, So that's the deal.
Yeah. That's fantastic. You said you have 2 kids?
2 kids, 10 and 12 years old right now. Yeah.
Wow. How do you maintain a healthy relationship with them being so productive with your business as well?
Guys night. So tonight's guys night.
Nice.
We were going to go
that's awesome.
To this obstacle course and shoot Nerf darts at each other, but my youngest isn't feeling 100%, so I'll probably just take the older one on a hike with some of my buddies. So you just, it's not about quantity as much as it is about quality. And then, we do weekly family meetings with the boys. Like, what is it that you guys are looking for? What could I do better? What would make you feel loved? And then you just create some, dude, I could go off forever, but I just recommend everybody read Toes Turn Purple. Go to Amazon, buy Toes Turn Purple, by Rich Christensen. That's the game changer if you have kids. It is the best book I've read on that.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. That being one of them, I guess. What's two more of your most influential books and why?
Financially related, Rich Dad Poor Dad was the game changer for me when I was in my early 20s, because before that I had read Millionaire Next Door, and I was going to be a miserable miser my whole life. And Rich Dad Poor Dad had me think about cash flow and business. So that was just a phenomenal book that turned my life upside down and really helped me out. And then Entrusted, the other one that I mentioned by Andrew Howell, that's a phenomenal book if you can get your hands on that one.
If you had 60 seconds with your 25-year-old self, what would you tell him to do and what would you tell him not to do?
Invest in your marriage. It's going to be one of the most rewarding, fulfilling things ever. And so instead of taking your wife for granted in all these moments and only working, really celebrate with her. That would be the thing to do. What not to do, don't rush into business relationships. Vet them, take your time, crawl, walk, run. Crawl first, walk second, run third. I ran into them too fast and just without testing them out or having better parameters.
Garrett, what's a way the audience can connect with you? What's the project you're working on currently, anything like that?
Best way to connect with me is wealthfactory.com/podcast. You can get copies of my books, cash flow guides for entrepreneurs. We've got 7 months worth of amazing stuff going out to people to build a relationship and to get to economic independence. And then if they want to continue on before that or get more intense earlier than that and hustle through it, they can invest in some of our programs. But, I just want to build the relationship and give them a tremendous amount of value right up front.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, and I express my sincere gratitude to you for the wisdom that you shared with my audience and myself today. So I appreciate you being on.
Have a great one.
Thank you for listening to the Heart Healthy Hustle podcast. If you made it to the end of this episode, I want to say thank you, and also I want you to ask yourself why. What about this episode really stood out to you? I want to challenge you to take action on that thing. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate your time and consideration to go ahead and leave a helpful review in iTunes, so it really helps the podcast grow and we can impact even more people who need this. Thank you guys for all of your support, and I will see you in the next episode.